Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about a few tips and tricks that I wish I knew before starting and progressing through Etheria restart. With that, today we'll be talking about multiple points and strategies so that you can avoid some mistakes that I made myself, while also avoiding any obstacles and making any challenges much easier than before. To kind of outline what we're going to be talking about specifically though, today we're going to be addressing 5 specific things: grinding the story as much as you can, building the right units, completing the events and first time challenges, addressing the energy in the game, and avoiding energy, or rather resource waste. Now, in addition to this, we're going to break down each section. So with this, let's start with the most straightforward and honestly the most important tip of all. And it's actually in regards to the story. Now, as you can see here, I'm nearly all the way through the story. And as you might imagine with most content in the game, the story is important, not just because it gives you lore details and also sometimes unlocks new content, but also because the story and the missions itself not only give you goodies and pulls, things of this like, but also give you access to EXP, which you will need, again, not just for leveling up characters, but unlocking different content, as some of it is specifically locked behind levels. Now, in addition to this, it is very important to build certain characters, or to kind of have a good idea of who you are trying to build and what sort of team you're trying to fixate on in general, before you end up wasting or using unnecessary resources on characters that are otherwise pretty niche. Now, with this, it is very important to know that in terms of what teams you're going to be using, there are very specific characters, or there are specific characters that have powerful niches, and there are others that are a bit more general. Now, of course, it would be amazing if you could get some of the lighter dark units, and luckily I did actually got Heinrich from a random pull this morning. But in terms of other characters, a character that you are likely familiar with at this point is Tiamat, who is extremely powerful. And if you are someone that's considering Tiamat, you should definitely consider a team that involves characters like Gray or Lian, since most of these characters are free together. Now, with that, I do want to mention that Tiamat, Gray, Dorothy, and Lian, again, a full or mostly complete and free team, is one of the most common teams that players will be running through the early stages of the story, as soon as summoning is available. But in addition to this, if you are someone that didn't want to choose Tiamat on your selector, it's actually totally fine to choose both Beontin and Rosa as additional options, as something that I also mentioned in my previous selectors video. The general rule here, however, is that you want a utility, a support / mitigator, some sort of sustain, and 2 DPS to run through the story, though of course in certain cases you may be able to get away with other buffers or without healers. In addition to this, you can also breeze through most of the early content, but you will definitely start struggling as you get later, or you start facing later thresholds. And even where I am currently, there are a lot of obstacles that I've encountered where it does feel as though I need to either level up different characters or start need to farm out for things like modules or prowesses, or skill enhances essentially, and I'm otherwise locked behind this wall, currently at least. Now, in addition to this, we do need to talk about the events and the first time challenges, because after you start hitting a wall in terms of what is possible for your energy, the events in the game are going to be where you get or gain the most value. This of course means that completing things like the events tab and getting things like the candy party, or even things like the check-ins or the festive rewards, any things like these are going to be your best method of receiving rewards that you otherwise would have missed. Now, I do also want to make a special note for specifically Ling Luo, that these are also challenges that you'll want to be completing whenever possible, as you'd probably imagine that with these rewards, not only do you gain things like the Hydra Crystals, things like the pulls and the the anima prototypes, but also Ling Luo once you inevitably reach day 7 of this event. Now, regarding this as well, there are other rewards that you can obtain and collect through things like the achievements and even through things like the battle pass, but I do want to highlight just how crazy some of the rewards in the achievements tab are. Now, again, to be clear, this isn't necessarily to say that these achievements will pay for or afford you the ability to get the rank 6 or like a constellation 6 of a character. But if you just take a look at some of the available rewards that you have here for something like development in instance, or for development for instance, some of those rewards are pretty impactful. Additionally, when you have access to things like this collection category, gaining a few additional anima imprints is also very helpful, as similar to with a game like Epic 7, where after you've farmed out or cleared something like Wyvern or cleared out something like Runes, those additional character ascension materials can sometimes be nice, especially when it costs so much to upgrade in this game specifically. Now again, I do want to preface and re-emphasize that a lot of the times when I felt myself running out of content or running out of things to claim or gain rewards from, I would just frequently peruse through content like the hyperlink charter, or go through things like the module modification, any of these different first time reward locations, in order to gain some sort of edge and claim more resources in general. But now we need to talk about, well, you guessed it, the actual more practical location for you to gain progress and upgrade the characters on your account, and that's in the form of energy. Currently, it is definitely common knowledge, of course, through gacha gamers, that letting your energy cap for a long time is not very good, especially now that everyone is new and a bunch of content is level gated. However, after completing all the available challenges, you will definitely hit a wall with content gates or level gates currently at 13 and 20. And if you're unsure about what to spend during these parts, the best current option that you have is kind of tied, or it's more tied currently, and that's between farming investigations and the GP outpost to level up your party skill and abilities. For transparency's sake, if you take a look at some of the abilities that I have to upgrade, each of these individual or specific levels is absolutely ridiculous. I have gone out of my way to level up both Zero and, well, my Moonlight character, as these are the characters I'm currently the most interested in. But even if you take a look at the total cost for someone like Leanne, who again a lot of players will definitely focus on upgrading, this amount of resources is absolutely psychotic in terms of how much you actually need total, and even in terms of leveling. Despite all the different rewards and the number of times that I've leveled up my character, having to level up several different times after being reset upon gaining an additional star also means that farming this specific content or specific content, or farming investigation for Animus EXP or GP outpost for prowess material, well, these are basically the two pieces of content that you'll spend 99.99% of your early game farming out and spending your energy on. That said, I do also want to preface, if you are someone that's a bit of a whale, these are packs, or there are packs in the store that do allow you to bypass some of these these limitations. But of course, if you're free to play, and that's likely why you're watching this video, it is going to be something that's a bit more debatable. Now, in terms of this, I do want to say that there is a good stopping point for farming gear if you're someone that is trying to farm out gear early just to get a decent set, and that's roughly the hard 1-3, where you can start getting epic rarity or yellow rarity gear. And honestly, when you get to levels like this where you're more of a lion, or you're able to get stuff like you're able to start get yellow, or you're able to start farming for yellow gear, it is nice to get pieces like this, as again the quality and some of the baseline rolls on these are more desirable, as opposed to things like the purples or the blues. But on the topic of gear and being a bit more conscious about your resources, the most important topic or tip that I can honestly provide for you is honestly not wasting your resources. Now, of course, this is a beta, so in terms of resource waste, this doesn't quite matter. However, if you're someone that's trying to min-max, especially now, it is very true that every player currently is being showered with materials and resources, since we're all new to the game. But you shouldn't get too comfortable with spending everything that you're given, as if you aren't investing correctly, you can easily run out of materials, and especially if you're someone that's completely free to play, your Etheria coins are easily going to get drained through upgrading one character, or once you start upgrading modules. Now, the general takeaway from all that I've said can really be summarized to a couple points though. First and foremost, when it comes to your team, you should definitely try and choose a team and stick to it, with roughly 4 to 5 teams roughly 4 to 5 units being upgraded to a decent amount. However, you should know that making changes, or the reason for this is that making changes this early honestly does cost a lot of Etheria coins and is otherwise quite detrimental to you to your overall play and your performance. Next, of course, just grind out the story, get as far as you can, as not only do you unlock content at times, but you also gain EXP and resources. And during said level locked periods, you should definitely farm character EXP and skill materials when possible. Now, to reiterate once again, if you are going through the challenges and you're completing content like the thresholds, completing 1-3 for any of these thresholds is fine. Again, since committing to gear farm at this point is pretty useless, though I do understand the necessity or the need or the feeling of wanting to have a few pieces of gear leveled, which is honestly fine as it doesn't cost too much, especially if you're not going too far in terms of upgrading. Now, beyond this, it is very important once again to be doing your events every day, as these are extremely valuable and they give you a ridiculous, honestly, amount of rewards, whether that's through the wish list and the candy party, or whether that's through content like the 7-day commission and things like the summon arena. Now, beyond this, you should of course remember that for your energy, letting it overcap is always going to be wasteful, though if you miss a little bit, it isn't the end of the world. But overall, the less energy that you spend, the longer that it'll take you to hit higher levels. And given how the progress or the progression system of the game currently acts, getting to the higher levels of your account or getting to the higher levels in this game as soon as possible will be helpful, since again, certain content is, as you're seeing on my screen currently, already level locked or already hidden behind specific levels, as opposed to something just like clearing a certain stage in the story. Now, finally, again, I cannot stress this enough. Upgrading characters that you know will be helpful or that you know you will end up using is fine, but just keep in mind that leveling up a little bit of every character will start to accumulate, or it will start to build and cause a lot of harm in terms of your overall resource generation. But as always, so long as you have your resources down pat and you do have a storage or a stockpile of Etheria coins, you'll be fine when it comes to Etheria restart. Anyways though, guys, as always, just keep in mind that with these tips, this isn't necessarily something that you will necessarily have to be super strict on. However, in general, if you are feeling that you're stuck, these are tips that you could definitely make use of or implement to kind of get ahead, or at least maintain and avoid some pitfalls or traps, especially this early on in a new gacha game. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you all on the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.